1. Today I had a conversation with my sister about everything going on in this house. She was firm and stuck with her opinion that there is nothing in this house or following me around. She would have blown it off and said it's nothing if she didn't believe it. I could see it in her face. I knew that this wasn't the whole truth. A little background on my family. My parents got divorced when I was very young. 2 to 4. Both of my parents remarried after a year. The woman my dad married had 2 kids of her own. We all moved into a new house. After 2 weeks of living there, my stepmother mentioned that the previous owner had died in the house. All us kids joked about how we would hear and see things. One day, I was talking to my sister and said that I don't sleep in our shared room when she wasn't home. She looked me dead in the face and said that she didn't either, because she saw shadows on the walls. One day after that, we heard talking in another room, even though we were home alone. Once my cousin swore she saw a face in the upstairs window. Shortly after this, my sister and I moved downstairs to a different room for unrelated reasons. Everything calmed down after we moved. Nothing else happened for years. Until last March. It all started when I started reading about ghosts and hauntings. I was bored at my mom's house and decided to go ghost hunting by my neighbor's house, like the stupid teenager I am. The man that lived there had died a few months prior. So I thought it would be interesting. I believe I was followed home that day, and up until now, the ghost is still following me. I've seen some pretty scary things, some of which I don't feel comfortable talking about. Honestly, I would give anything to unsee them. 2. Demons, ghosts, poltergeists, shadow people? This involves self-mutilation, self-humiliation. And an all too real story of a haunting I experienced in Queens, New York. Everything I am about to tell you is true and humiliating. I'll try to make it short and sweet. When I was 13 years old, I moved to New York City to live with my dad. There he had a girlfriend with whom he spent most of his nights with, leaving me to the basement apartment all on my own. He had mentioned to me that the house was really old and was one of the first farmhouses in Queens, New York. He wasn't lying. The design of the house gave it all away, as well as the owners who proudly gloated about some ancient farm equipment they had inherited with the house. They had it certified and price tagged. Apparently the house had been there for centuries. They were even looking to get a tax break on it. My dad had mentioned that there had been weird stuff happening in the basement apartment, as he had already moved in a week prior to my arrival. However, I shrugged it off. Everyone in my family seems to bless their new place with telling some BS ghost stories about it early on. It's like a new home initiation ritual. Plus, my dad wasn't the brightest bulb in the world. He spent very little nights with me, so it was like I had my own apartment. Awesome. But when he did, we would often sleep in the same bed. It wasn't a big deal, as I usually didn't sleep anyway, and would feel him waking up early to leave, only an hour after I fell asleep. I didn't mind. I would just scroll around on my phone. Enough with the baloney, here's the good stuff. My dad and I would watch Family Guy at night, and the disc would be spinning away till 8 a.m. every morning. One night we both heard a loud crash from the kitchen, directly outside the bedroom door to the right. We both chose to ignore it, only to have it happen a couple more times. Even harder, in the morning we woke to discover that it had been a bunch of silverware, pots, and pans. This wouldn't be the last of the incidents, oh no, because this went on almost every single night. At least the nights I chose to stay there. Then the shadows began to appear, outside the doorway. First, both me and my dad saw it. Half of a figure hanging upside down from the doorway, flipped downwards with its arms hanging, almost as if to stare at us, just before letting back up in a crunch and disappearing. The bedroom door would open and close on its own. The TV would go on and off. I spent many of my nights alone there. I would just hide in the light. Though it didn't seem to make a difference, I would turn my back on the television right away. My biological father, being the coward he is, showed up once or twice a week. But he got a priest to come and bless the apartment. At this point, huge raccoons started piling up at the ground-level bathroom window every night. The window came up to my head when I was in the apartment. Completely unfazed by me when I tried to scare them away. Awfully weird behavior for raccoons if you ask me. The shower door would slam abruptly, and the light bulb had to be replaced 3 times. A really strong odor that smelled like rotten shrimp started to take over the bathroom. It was a dense and wet smell. Logic seemed to tell me that there must have been trash built up in the backyard, but my dad was sure otherwise. He told me the priest purposely left out the bathroom to test for whatever was there. One terrible night I fell asleep hard and fast, right next to my dad, who insisted I was witnessing his last night in that apartment, because he had enough. I woke up at around 3 or 4 a.m. I had pissed the bed a lot. I felt strange, really hazy, sort of more like I was willing and curious, but also scared and forced, lush and pacified, paralyzed. I found myself walking to the couch in the living room, which was connected to the kitchen, and had a clear view of the bathroom. I sprawled out in my pissed underwear on the living room couch, struggled to pick up my phone, and faintly remember pressing record with what felt like what little strength I had left. No, what little will I have left. I say that because I felt really tired, dark, and woozy all of a sudden, in an instant almost. The next morning I woke up, covered in urine on a leather couch. My dad's literally pissed. I felt like a blank, empty slate all day. My dad didn't mention the piss that morning. He just gave me a mean look, and I had to tell him that something was wrong with me. He just shrugged it off. When I remember my phone, him, his girlfriend, and their daughter, my half-sister, and I are all packed up in a car, getting ready to go to Coney Island. Then it hits me like a brick. My phone. I inspected it to see if I had pictures or video or notes or texts or anything to indicate why I even remembered the detail of me struggling to pull it out. The only new item was a sound file of a woman whispering slowly and clearly into the phone, Christopher, Christopher, young blood, go to sleep, young blood. From there, the whispering just kept saying young blood, young blood, young blood, sleep, 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 fading out until all you could hear was static like wind in the phone. Even thinking about the words raises my hair in the same way. The tension in the car was thick. Everyone was scared. My stepmom refused to go near the place from then on. Everyone heard it loud and clear. My sister started to cry, and my father demanded I delete it immediately, yelling as loud as he could. My stepmom screamed, "Stop! Stop it!" She said that she thought fighting was a bad idea, and that it was getting cold in the car like in the ghost movies. So we needed to stop it. I didn't. Delete it. I'm looking for the phone with the card keeping it now. That night, the pots and pans slammed out really hard. At the same time, the power went out, so my dad and I decided to sleep in the car that night, as he didn't want to drive to any of the other apartments he was renting, nor his girlfriend's place. The next day, he got a Jamaican priest of sorts to burn some special herbs all over the house. He also called back the original Roman Catholic priest, John, to finish the job, and another religious figure I don't recall, to do their hocus pocus as well. Each one leaving us with their own remarkable, "I sense a disturbance in the force" type quotes. It's not over yet. 2 or 3 weeks later. We're on our last week, and I feel so angry I throw a fit, cutting myself in rage. My dad came into the bedroom to find me bleeding, the mirror shattered, the closet empty with all of its contents sprawled all over the bedroom, and the crappy TV leaning on its side by my bed. He said I was on the ground with my eyes wide open, bleeding from the wrist. However, my dad grew suspicious that something more sinister was afoot when he noticed the glass on the closet door was broken, as if pieces of gravel came down raining on it. And there was nothing in the room that could have done that damage. I was on the floor, blacked out with cuts on my arm and knife beside me. I don't remember anything about why I did it. I remember growing angry for many unfocused reasons, and that's all. But when my dad turned around to leave the apartment and get his phone, worried to even look if the TV had fallen on my head, all of the plates came flying out of the cabinets toward him. Panicking, he ran back, scooped me up, put me in the car, and we sped out. I remember hearing screams of terror as we left. I started to come to while he had me whipped over his shoulder, running to the car. So does my father. Obviously, we got the hell out of the place after that. Years later, the words Youngblood still haunt me as I go to sleep. 3. This morning I decided to stay at home in order to recover from a mild food poisoning that has bothered me in the past couple of days. Luckily, today, I did not have any classes, which allowed me to stay at home while the rest of my family left, either to work or school. Once they left, I decided to fall back asleep for a few more hours. Around 7 a.m., I was woken up by this rattling sound, one similar to marbles hitting the floor and bouncing, ending with an abrupt stop. This was followed by a female voice with some laughter. I sat up in bed for a moment, contemplating what had just happened. From the corner of my eye, I caught a quick glimpse of a lady walking out of my room. At first, I thought it was someone who had broken into my house, so I left the warmth of my bed and checked around the house armed with a baseball bat. I found no one, but still decided to check the entrances, which were all locked. I then proceeded to go back to bed and watch a movie on Netflix. A few moments later, as I'm lying in bed, I hear the laughter again. At this point, it's 7:40 a.m., and I became paralyzed like sleep paralysis, but I was fully awake and couldn't move my body. What happened next freaked me out completely. A lady completely dressed in grey walked into my room. Her skin, along with her hair, was grey, and it was rotting. She had no eyes, but she had her eye sockets open. She approached my bed and sat by my feet. She began to speak, and I could only understand a few things she was saying. She gave me a toothy grin afterwards, touched my face, and vanished. I could move my body a few moments later, and I quickly checked my phone for the time. It was 8:40 a.m. I quickly got up, showered, and left my room for a few hours, trying to process what had just happened. I would like to say that I do believe in the paranormal, and had other experiences in my life, but not as intense as this. This is the first time I've seen a full-body apparition, and one that seemed to want to communicate with me. 4. Shadow people. First time experiencing them, I tried to take a swing at one, thinking there were people who had broken in and were trying to wake me up just to kill me. I was dating a girl who was there for that, but had actually left the room to sleep in another room, because she was freaked out. That was before I had woken up to them, sitting, or standing, in different places of that room around me. The other, ironically, also started while dating her at her parents' house. They live near these woods that has an abandoned house in the middle of it. Well, every few nights, we would be on the porch, and in the woods you could hear large footsteps being taken by something bipedal. Extremely large steps. It sounded like someone cracking Louisville sluggers. We joked about it being Bigfoot, but we never ever went to investigate. When I finally did, about 2 years ago, long separated from her by now, but still friends with the family, I told my best friend and his older brother about it. Well, his older brother has been researching the Sasquatch for years, apparently. We took precautions, bought guns, We showed up that night and didn't hear a single thing, but my best friend ended up zoning out, told us to hold his firearm for him, and approached the tree line as if to go in, and kept trying to persuade us, saying, "We should go take a look." And when we asked why, all he would say was, "I just feel good about it." We were freaked out and ended up staying for only about 30 minutes after that started with him, and just before I got back into the truck we were riding in. Some sort of small black dot or orb zoomed straight upwards toward my face, and I felt this staticky tingle. The next day his brother and I both realized we had scratch marks. Mine were across my chest and his were down his back. 5. So I'll start off by saying that I've been a skeptic most of my life. My father told me a story about the building he worked in being very haunted. But at a young age, I actually didn't really believe him. He liked to screw around with me a lot. As I've grown older, I started to think more about the questions of our existence and the supernatural phenomena that causes them, and had become more open to the possibility of paranormal activity. So, I've been working at this restaurant for about 3.5 years. It's an old tavern-style place, with antique decorations and a general old-fashioned feel to it. It's been there over 100 years and 3 people have actually died in the place. Anyway, so about 1.5 years ago, I got promoted from waiter to bartender. Being the bartender, I was responsible for closing the place down at night, turn off electronics, lights, lock doors, place money in the safe, etc. I enjoyed having the place to myself for a bit, so I was usually never in a rush to get out of there after the last customer left. I'd usually chill out and have a vodka club or two, blast some good tunes on the jukebox, and if it was a nice night out, maybe sit out on the patio for a bit. I noticed a few weird things, but nothing major. Seeing shadows in the corner of my eyes, weird noises, etc. I usually brushed it off because I had bartended at another place and was familiar with weird restaurant noises. Ice machine, large refrigerator running, furnace. So I never made a big deal out of it and would sit around for a half hour or so with no issues. So one night, maybe about 8 to 10 months ago, I was doing my usual closing tasks, which involves going into one of the dining rooms and shutting off the illuminated open sign. Basically, this dining room is very long, my guess about 60 feet. I glance all the way down to the other side and see what appears to be a man wearing a cowboy hat, sitting at the corner table. I couldn't make out any facial features, it just appeared to be a silhouette. He didn't move, just sat still. Before I went to approach him to see how he got in here, I went to check the front door, which I thought I had locked at this point. When I observed it is in fact locked, I go back over to the dining room and he's gone. I really didn't make much of it and just figure it was me being tired. I had been working 12-hour shifts on this particular day of the week, in addition to being a full-time student, and was always exhausted. So fast forward about 4 days, and I'm at the same bar drinking, and decide to bring it up to my co-worker who was bartending at the time. I tell her I could have sworn I saw a man in the restaurant, and her instant response was it the man with the cowboy hat at table 106? My stomach sank at that exact moment. She told me the place was haunted and that she had seen him many times, in addition to a few other things, which I did not even want to ask about and find out. So from that point on, I've been in a major rush to get the hell out of there. I've noticed many other things since then. However, some nights I decided to have a drink on the patio instead of in the bar. On 2 occasions, the music turned back on from inside. There's no logical explanation for that besides someone literally pressing down the power button on the jukebox remote. I've had witnesses with me on both occasions. The music turning on thing. I told a few people about it, who just said that I forgot to shut it off when I left. Like I said, I had a witness with me on both occasions, both witnesses were literally freaked the hell out. Also, the music is very loud and prominent in this bar, and there's just no way I'd ever forget after over a year of leaving that place, and it always being really quiet. Also, let me add that once all the doors are locked and the patio door is shut, I'm locked out for the night, not that I'd even go back in there to shut it off. It happened on more than 2 occasions, because I've had a cook tell me at least twice that the music was on when he came in the next day, so it may have been turned on after I had already left. I've also been told by my boss that I left a bunch of dining room lights on overnight, and to not forget to do that again. My girlfriend happened to have been with me that night, and she said she remembered it being pitch black when we left. I definitely shut them, because it's always the first thing I do when the busboys finish cleaning up in the dining room. But whatever, that's nothing crazy. A few weeks later, my girlfriend comes in again to hang out with me and wait for me to get out. She, at this point, knows about my experiences, but did not fully believe me at the time. I wanted to sit out on the patio for a bit when I was done, but she insisted that she was cold and wanted to stay in. Whatever, I guess I have to deal with it. So of course I'm naturally freaking the hell out. I'm just kind of scanning the place, analyzing every sound I hear, and my heart rate is definitely very elevated. After about 15 minutes of not seeing or hearing anything, I kind of calmed down and forgot about the whole situation. I was kind of staring off straight ahead into the entrance to one of the bathrooms when I saw like a flash go by. It was kind of like a light orangey color with a slight transparency. It sort of made out the shape of a person. It just kind of glided by and disappeared. I don't say anything to her because I was afraid I'd either freak her out or she wouldn't believe me and think I'm crazy. But at this point, we were just about ready to leave. I shut all the lights and sit down for a second to take my last few sips of my beer. All of a sudden, we start hearing these weird noises from the back of the restaurant. You know, the coughing sound an old guy makes when he's been smoking for like 50 years. Kind of like that. Just like a scratchy smoker's cough. I really have no clue what the hell it was. Girlfriend heard it too, and we noped the hell out of there. Told a co-worker who said it was most likely the ice machine, which, although possible, sounded pretty different to the noises I'm used to hearing it make. Keep in mind these noises could have come from the cowboys' table, but the restaurant is very large, so it could also have come from pretty much anywhere in the back of the dining room or kitchen. One night I was there drinking because I was waiting for my friend, who was the bartender that night, to get off work, so we could go hit up a bar that was open later. Went to shut all the lights in the dining room to help my friend get his closing work done earlier. I thought about the cowboy and decided to approach the table once again. Now keep in mind I'm a total coward when it comes to these things. However, this night I was pretty drunk. I approached the table, and once again it's completely freezing in that particular corner of the dining room. I am literally just staring at the table, hoping to see this guy appear. He didn't at that moment, but I got a really weird feeling. Like I just felt like I was being watched, and that I was not wanted right there. I walked away. Friend gets out and we leave. As I'm walking past the front windows, I decide to peek in and wouldn't you know it, cowboy is sitting right there. So another night. This actually happened pretty recently. I'm doing my usual shit. I'm wiping down the bar and kind of look over into the dining room. There's a big window in between the bar and dining room, so a decent portion of the dining room is visible from behind the bar. The cowboy's table is completely out of sight for the particular area of the dining room, thank God. I see a woman kind of wandering around like she was lost. It's not uncommon for random drunk people to just kind of wander in, so I didn't think much of it. Head over there to see what's going on, and of course, she's gone. In that exact instant, I realized what was happening again. Of course, all the doors were locked from the inside. I'm literally getting goosebumps typing this. I decided to dig into the story and asked the owner of the place, knowing she had spent more time in there than anyone else had since she bought it. She said yes, the place is haunted by the ghost of a woman. She even knew her first name. However, I don't remember what name she told me. I asked her about the cowboy, but she had never seen him and never heard about it from any of my co-workers. The one thing I do remember is that, whatever the name was, it was an older woman's name. Kind of like an outdated name you don't really see any young people having anymore. She also told me about a time when she saw the ghost of her brother, who had committed suicide. Irrelevant, but kind of shows that maybe she has an eye for these things and is a believer. I dug even deeper and consulted in a few co-workers. These two particular co-workers had been serving at this place for 25 plus years, and worked under multiple different owners. The one lady did not have much info. She just confirmed that yes, she had seen the cowboy, and showed me his seat, which of course is right where I had seen him both times. The other guy gave me a little more info. He claimed that 3 people have died in the place. One apparently choked on a chicken wing, another had a heart attack, and the third he did not know the cause of death. He also was not aware of the locations, except that the heart attack occurred at the bar. He had personally seen the cowboy, and had been told by a few people over the years of his presence. So the main thing that stands out to me is that these 2 supposed deaths are obviously the spirits that I am experiencing now. In this particular area of the country, it is extremely uncommon to see someone wearing a cowboy hat. Ever. However, I believe that back in the day it was a little more common. It is possible that one of these deaths that occurred many years ago were the cowboy that I am seeing. Also, like I said about the woman's name being an old name, I just find that the evidence adds up. I think that the woman was possibly the orange flash spirit thing that I saw that I mentioned before. Like I said, this place is well over 100 years, so who really knows what could have happened in here? Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Paranormal Stories, episode 36. Thank you very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Just a heads up, as of recording, I have sod all for the TIFU on Saturday. Doesn't mean I won't get one done, but just so you know, there's a slight possibility I may have to do something else instead. But I think last week's came together pretty late as well, so you never know, might happen. Okay, and with that I think I'm going to have to run off for now and get to editing, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.